Number 1, consider approving the March 31st, 2022 business session minutes.
Okay. On the action agenda, item number 2.
Resolution number 020-22, consider a City of Olathe application number PR 21-0018 for a revised preliminary development plan for I-35 Logistics Park, application number PAR 22-0004 for a final development plan for Scannell Building number 2 and application number FP 22-0002 for a final plat for I-35 Logistics Park, 4th plat, located nearby the northwest corner of 159th Street and Clear Road, Olathe, Kansas, and located within 1 mile of the New Century Air Center.
Okay. Well, the reason this comes before us is because of the proximity to the New Century Air Center. Can you give us a very brief report, Ms. Wickland?
Yes, absolutely. So this is at the subject property is located at 159th and Clare Road. This property is within City of Olathe and located within 1 mile of the New Century Air Center, again, which is why it's before you for review of airport compatibility. This request includes 3 applications, which is a revised preliminary development plan. Second application is a final development plan for Building 2, a warehouse building, and the third application is a final plat. And just to kind of show quickly, here's the phasing plan for Logistics Park. Here's the final development plan for Building 2. And here are the building elevations of what Building 2 will look like. Planning staff recommends approval, and the Airport Commission also recommended approval of the applications with stipulations and had no concerns with the applications. And just a quick note that the applicant has received their FAA approval, and there were no members of the public that spoke at the meeting.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Questions? Oh, this is a Ms. Albrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask you, when these are going in, are they working, is the City of Olathe and staff also, I know they do continue to work with Brian and our roads crew, but we make sure that that happens so that we just, with the truck routes and.
yes, I
thought they
believe
did,
they
yeah.
coordinate. If you're probably referring to 159th Street, I do believe that the city and county coordinate on those street improvements.
And they have been meeting, they meet on a regular basis, just so that everyone knows. They meet with all the different cities out in the 6th District and even some that are in Miami County, just to make sure that we're doing the right, proper truck routes and,
Okay. All right.
thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, question?
I know that on 199th, because of the increased truck traffic, that the county is going to be required to spend millions of dollars. And this is extremely troubling to me, and I have discussed this with Brian Pedig, that type of semi-truck traffic on 199th Street is just absolutely dangerous, and I asked him to please look into the possibility of recommending that we not allow semi-trucks on 199th Street especially, because those ditches are absolute drop-offs, and it's dangerous. And it's going to cost the county millions and millions and millions of dollars. And unfortunately, those developments, especially out in Edgerton, are getting they pay such a low rate on taxes. They're only paying 16 cents a square foot, which is really, 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 really low. And this is impacting our budget. This is impacting the county budget. And people just need to know what's happening, and it's also impacting the quality of life for those folks that live on 199th Street. And we will be asked to approve some expenditures for improvements on 199th west of 169. So anyway, those are my comments.
Mr. Chair,
Well,
can I make
I would simply say this. This project, is it on 199th?
No, but Commissioner Alan Brand brought up the Edgerton and down into Miami County and truck traffic and truck routes, and
Well,
that's why I
again,
commented.
some streets are in the city, and so if they're within the city limits, then the city is responsible for making those improvements. And, as development occurs throughout the county, either the city or the county will be participating. That's a known fact. So this is a planning item, will remain on action. All right, next item.
Item number 3, resolution number 021-22. Consider City of Olathe application number PAR 21-0060 for a final development plan for I-35 Logistics Park Building C expansion on 52 acres located at 15251 South Green Road, Olathe, Kansas, and located within 1 mile of the New Century Air Center.
Okay, staff?
Good morning, Commissioners. Sean Penley, County Planning Staff. This application is a City of Olathe application, also within the I-35 Logistics Park. This is the Building C expansion. This is located to the north of the site that Diane just presented on the south end. So this is the original phase 1 of the I-35 Logistics Park. I don't know if this is the right... Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Okay, jumping ahead. So the site's located at the northwest corner of 155th Street and Clare Road. The site is located within 1 mile of the New Century Air Center. That's why this application is before you for review and approval due to proximity from the New Century Air Center. The site is located approximately 3,900 feet to the northeast of the New Century runway. This is in the Phase 1 area. It's a proposed expansion of Building C. This is approximately 316,000 square feet. The original plan for the I-35 Logistics Park accounted for a 900,000 square foot building. So with this proposed addition, this will actually be a little bit smaller than the original plan for this site. This expansion, go through a couple of the development plans here. This shows the expansion of the warehouse building, final development plans, floor plan, and then the building elevations. The expansion will match the existing height of the building, which is approximately 43 feet in height. And just showing some renderings of the building. So basically just an expansion of the warehouse. Staff did review the plans for airport compatibility in relation to the New Century Air Center plan. The future land use designation in this area is airport industrial. This is planned for industrial. And the site is not located within a flight corridor. The applicant also filed a FAA 7460 review to confirm no airspace issues are impacted, and that determination was completed and the results showed no hazards to air navigation. This application was approved by the City of Olathe on March 14th. The Airport Commission did hold a public hearing for this item on March 23rd. Nobody from the public spoke at that hearing. Staff recommended approval of the application, and the Airport Commission recommended approval as stipulated. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Again, this is before us because of the proximity to the airport. Any questions? All right, thank you. This will remain on action. Next item.
Item number 4, consider authorizing an exception to the county's purchasing procedures as permitted under procedure number 110.180, paragraphs A.4 and A.16 for the purchase of DNA kits, reagents, and supplies by the Sheriff's Office Crime Lab from Life Technologies and Promega in an annual amount not to exceed $250,000 for each vendor annually for a period of 3 years.
Kevin Brewer?
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Go right
So
ahead.
Kevin Brewer, I'm with the Sheriff's Office. I am one of the supervisors in the DNA section. So in order to perform DNA testing in the crime lab, we use commercially available kits from 2 main vendors, Life Technology and Promega. And spending is expected to exceed over $100,000 again this year for each vendor. And we've been using these technologies in the lab for over 5 years now. And once these technologies are established in the laboratory, it's not practical to change the technologies and kits and reagents that we use due to the time it takes to just to bring these technologies online. And so the Sheriff's Office is requesting exception to competition to purchase these supplies from Life Technologies and Promega. And I will add that in 2019, the BOCC did approve this same 3-year exception to competition for Life Technologies and Promega, and that is set to expire this month.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I find this briefing sheet in good order. I'd be comfortable with it going into consent if you'd like, but Mr. Brewer, I would be interested before next week just to learn more about your validation process, and that's just for my own education.
Okay. Any objection
Okay.
to consent? Ms. Hansley?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Brewer. I have a question. I was just recently reading about the passage and signing of House Bill 2228 that requires the review of all sexual assault kits, also known as rape kits, to be done in a much more timely manner than has been done previously in Kansas. And I know most of that work's done at the KBI, but will this bill have any impact on your work at the crime lab, and particularly on the need for these DNA kits?
Yes, we expect an increase in the number of sexual assault kits submitted to the laboratory. These are the types of kits that we use for that testing, and that increase in submission of those kits will cause an increase in the number of reagents and consumables that we use, which will contribute to this, yes.
Okay, thank you. And just to follow up on that, after those kits are tested, I'm trying to remember if you all keep those there, or they all become stored at the KBI? Because I know the time has increased from 5 years to 20 years that they're required to be kept. Do you keep them there, or do you always send them on to the KBI for storage?
So I'm just gonna, so the 10-year, the 5-year to 20-year had to do with anonymous kits. And so those are kits that are collected in which they are not submitted to law enforcement, but they're collected anonymously. And the KBI will store those for 20 years.
Okay.
So the kits that we receive are reported to law enforcement, and they are sent to our laboratory. And a portion of those kits may be stored here at the laboratory indefinitely, and a portion of those kits may go back to the agency where they will store those according to their own policies and procedures.
Okay. And are we confident of our storage capabilities? I'm thinking back, we recently had an audit report in regard to the sheriff's, I forget the name of the evidence room. Are we feeling secure that we can keep those kits safe and accounted for? Do we have strong procedures in place?
So I can't address what happens with the sheriff's office property room. We do have our own property room in the crime laboratory. Those are two different property rooms. The sheriff's office would be for their own investigations unit. And so the property room that we have here in the crime laboratory, what we do is we take the kits that probably, I'd say, is about this, maybe the size of a cereal box, or probably smaller than that. We can take all of those items and consolidate them down into small envelopes, which might be the size of a regular mailing envelope, so that we can store those in a more efficient manner. So we do have quite a bit of storage capacity here in the crime lab. It's not indefinite, at some point we may need to grow, but we are able to consolidate those kits down to a smaller size and accommodate that here at the crime lab.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Any objection to consent? All right, if not, so noted. Next item.
Item number 5, invitation for bid IFB number 2022-020. Consider authorizing term and supply contracts with Polydyne Incorporated and Salinas LLC to furnish Polymer for the Johnson County Wastewater in an amount not to exceed $1 million annually for a 1-year term with 4 additional 1-year renewal terms.
Ms. Pekarik.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Susan Pekarik with Wastewater. So So Johnson County Wastewater uses Polymer, which is a common chemical for wastewater treatment. We use that to remove water from our wastewater solids. So in the solids processing at our facilities, we thicken those solids for further processing, say in the digesters, and also before we then haul those solids for disposal. Currently, we've been purchasing Polymer for 3 of our facilities where we do that processing, the Middle Basin, the Nelson facility, and then also the New Tomahawk facility. We also purchase smaller amounts at our other facilities for thickening. We've been utilizing a contract through the city of Topeka with Polydyne, which was competitively bid. We knew once the New Tomahawk facility was online, however, we would want to go out to the market and bid our own contract. And so in November, the board authorized, or I should say, extended the contract with Polydyne through March 31st of this year. We did conduct our own bid process, and bids were received on March 21st. We had 2 firms respond, Polydyne and Salinas. And during the process of the advertisement, those firms were required to test samples of their polymer with the solids so that they could develop dosages and then develop an annual cost that we could use then to evaluate the bids. And those are all shown on the table that's included on the briefing sheet. So for the term and supply contract, we will pay for the polymer that's actually purchased. Again, those annual amounts shown in the briefing sheet were just to evaluate the bids. We do recommend awarding to both firms. Both firms can provide lower costs at different facilities. In addition, it provides us flexibility if there were to be supply chain disruption, or if for some reason once they start working with a particular facility, the dosages perhaps might change, and so that could actually change the overall cost for removing the water. So we do recommend awarding to both firms.
Okay.
Expenses for this, will be paid out of the operating budget for wastewater.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bucaric, can you offer some observations? You make note that these are common chemicals, but yet we only had 2 firms that had the capacity or the desire to bid. Any explanation would be appreciated. And is there a cost escalation component to this contract in subsequent years? Because it's a 5-year, $5 million commitment.
Yeah. So good question about, so the chemical, polymer is a common chemical. Companies that provide the polymer that we're utilizing with biosolids, there aren't as many as there used to be, I will say. I don't have an explanation for why, but I'll ask my staff and see if they can help with that. Robin Lyons is here. I will ask if she can speak to the escalation clause. We typically have one.
Robin Lyons, Purchasing Manager. So the cost that we have for the contract will be set for the first year. At contract renewal, then the vendor has the opportunity to increase or decrease the cost at that time.
And do we have the flexibility to say, well, if yours goes up, we're going to look at the other firm that's been authorized?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
And at what point do we say maybe we go back out for bids or reconsideration?
So when we get ready for renewal and the vendors come back and give us what their estimated costs are for the next renewal, we go back to the department, look at budgets, we look at what the percentage of increase is. The board authorizes the purchasing manager to increase that contract up to 10%. Anything over that has to come back to the board. We look at CPI indexes, we look at the marketplace, we look at all different factors in making those determinations. We also have to keep in mind that depending on the marketplace, like right now, everything is crazy. If we were to go back out to bid, there is a possibility that we could end up with a higher increase. So those are all factors that we look at and risks that we look at in making those determinations.
Thank you.
But it is for a one-year renewal, so there is an opportunity to review all aspects of it. Okay, well, this will remain on action. Next item.
Item number 6, consider approving the final plat for the Rock Creek Pump Station property located at 5701 Rowe Avenue in Mission, Kansas.
Ms. McCarrick.
Good morning, Susan Pickerick with Wastewater again. So the Rock Creek Pump Station is located on Rowe Avenue near the intersection with Johnson Drive. It's in Mission, Kansas. And last year, the board accepted the property from KDOT that had always been located on KDOT right-of-way since its construction. We anticipate we'll be making improvements for that facility in the future, and so therefore, KDOT was willing to provide that property to the county. So that's been accepted. So since that time, we have been working with the City of Mission to finalize a plat for the property, and the board, as the owner of the property, would be required to sign that final plat. The city has already approved the final plat document, so this is simply for signature of that final plat document as owner, so.
Well,
And that plat's included in the packet, excuse me, sir.
this is a semi-land use planning issue, so it'll remain on action. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next item.
With the next 3 items, I will read them into the record together and they can be discussed together, but next week we will have to have individual motions.
Thank you.
Item number 7, consider approving and transmitting the 10th Judicial District's SFY 2023 Juvenile Justice Comprehensive Plan Grant Application in the amount of $1,632,691.81 and the SFY 2023 Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board, JCAB, grant application in the amount of $400,773.17 to the Kansas Department of Corrections, Juvenile Services, KDOC-JS, and authorizing the associated positions, contracts, and client services. Item number 8, consider authorizing and submitting the SFY 2023 application for a reinvestment grant and regional collaboration grant to the Kansas Department of Corrections, Juvenile Services, as approved by the Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board in the amount of $403,250.75 to support programs and interventions for justice-involved youth. Item number 9, consider authorizing and submitting the Johnson County Department of Corrections SFY 2023 Community Corrections Comprehensive Plan and funding request to the Kansas Department of Corrections in an amount not to exceed $2,430,908.69, and the use of client reimbursement fee fund budget request in the amount of $191,398.45.
All right, as I understand it, these are annual requirements of submittals of information that are required. Is that right? Any comments you'd like to make?
Yes, that is correct. Good morning, Rachel Mested, Director of Field Services with the Department of Corrections. So as read, these next 3 agenda items include the Johnson County State Fiscal Year 2023 grant submissions to the Kansas Department of Corrections. These plans detail service delivery related to adults and juveniles and include state-mandated programs, evidence-based programs, departmental goals, and community-based alternatives to incarceration for clients being supervised in Johnson County. So the first grant, Corrections is scheduled to receive approximately $1.6 million of state general funds and $400,000 in Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board grants to support juvenile graduated sanctions and subgrantees within our community. Corrections is requesting approximately $100,000 in those JCAB grants to fund a new position of the Disproportionate Minority Contact Coordinator. Second, we are scheduled to receive approximately $403,000 to support our juvenile reinvestment and collaboration grants. And lastly, Corrections is scheduled to receive approximately $2.4 million of state grant funds and $191,000 in fee funds to support our adult intensive supervision, probation, and services at our adult residential center. All three applications have been approved by either the Community Corrections Advisory Board or the Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board. So we can stand for any questions regarding the applications, budgets, or supporting documents.
Ms. Hanslick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, thank you, Ms. Mestad, first of all, for welcoming the new District 4 appointee to the Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board, Cindy Schendel. She said that you have been very helpful to her, so thank you for doing that. Secondly, one of the issues that came up at the Mental Health Summit yesterday had to do with how do we help keep juveniles out of incarceration, especially those having mental health issues. And as always, I was very proud of the things that Johnson County Department of Corrections has been doing in that area of mental health with our juvenile justice, our justice-involved juveniles.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Thank
and
you.
then, I had been the liaison to the Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board, which I miss very much because a great group of people. But I wanted to ask Commissioner O'Hara, who's now the liaison, if she had any input on this, because I know I was always very impressed with the detail and care with which JCAB prepared these grant applications and very careful with how the money is used to the greatest effect. So,
Yeah, this was discussed at Friday's JCAB meeting, and back to in-person, I Zoomed in, so we have the option of being in person, which I'm glad that there is that option. And staff was very thorough in presenting the information on it, and they all passed unanimously, so it was very well presented.
thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Mestad, is this your first time before us?
Yes.
Well, welcome.
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you. Very nice presentation. I appreciate your thoroughness of your work. I do have some questions. I'd like to learn more about the metrics and the analysis, so maybe before next week we could visit.
Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you.
Other questions? Well, these items will remain on action. Thank you very much. Are there any other items to review?
No, sir.
All right, that concludes our agenda review. We are adjourned from agenda review, and we continue in recess from our regular business session. And as noted earlier, our executive session will begin at 11:35 in the conference room. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good guess on the time.